Hello and welcome to our morning edition of Arirang News. We begin with these stories making the headlines at this hour. The conflict in the Middle East has sent oil prices back to $100 per barrel. Iran's supreme leader issued his first public statement on the war, saying the country will continue blocking the Strait of Hormuz, while also vowing to keep fighting. Starting today, the Korean government has imposed a price cap on domestic fuel supplies for the first time in 30 years to combat a spike in energy costs and ease the burden on consumers. The South Korean parliament has passed a special bill that paves the way for Seoul's $350 billion investment commitments in U.S. industries, which in May last year to avoid the Trump administration's tariffs. We begin this morning with oil prices, which surged past $100 a barrel as the war with Iran shows no clear path to de-escalation, raising fears of prolonged supply disruptions in the Persian Gulf. Iran's new supreme leader signaled continued attacks and hinted at using the Strait of Hormuz as leverage, while U.S. President Donald Trump stressed stopping Tehran's nuclear ambitions remains the top priority. Our Lee Seung-jae starts us off.
Oil prices surged back to the $100 per barrel level on Thursday as the war with Iran showed no clear signs of ending, heightening fears of prolonged disruptions to global energy supplies. Brent crude jumped 9.2% to settle at $100.46 per barrel, reflecting mounting concerns that the conflict could significantly affect oil production and shipments across the Persian Gulf. Analysts warn that any sustained disruption in the region, which accounts for a large share of the world's crude exports, could trigger a renewed surge in global inflation and weigh on economic growth. Tensions escalated further after Iran's new supreme leader, Mojtaba Khamenei, delivered his first public statement since succeeding his late father. In an address, he said Iran would continue attacks on Gulf Arab neighbors and suggested the effective closure of the Strait of Hormuz could be used as leverage against the United States and Israel.
Certainly, the leverage of blocking the Strait of Hormuz must continue to be used, and opening other fronts where the enemy is highly vulnerable if the war continues will be considered while observing strategic interests.
Khamenei also called on regional governments to shut down U.S. military bases on their territory, signaling a potentially broader confrontation. His remarks added to uncertainty in the oil market, where traders are closely watching whether tensions could escalate into direct threats to shipping routes or energy infrastructure. Meanwhile, U.S. President Donald Trump said rising oil prices can benefit the United States because it is the world's largest oil producer. However, in his Truth Social post, he emphasized that preventing Iran from obtaining nuclear weapons remains his administration's top priority, warning that he would not allow Tehran to destabilize the Middle East or pose a wider global threat. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
To combat higher energy costs and ease the burden on consumers, starting today, the Korean government has ordered a temporary cap on the price of fuel. This is the first time in 3 decades that this measure has been implemented. Our Park Jun-an has the details.
The South Korean government has implemented a temporary price cap on domestic fuel. Started from midnight on Friday, it is the first such measure in nearly 30 years since the full liberalization of oil prices in 1997.
The government will take firm action against excessive price hikes that exploit the crisis and will implement a price cap on petroleum products to ease the burden on consumers.
This step comes in response to supply concerns and sharp oil price surges triggered by the blockade of the Strait of Hormuz and ongoing tensions in the Middle East. The system sets upper limits on the wholesale supply prices that refineries can charge to gas stations and distributors. Regular gasoline is capped at 1,724 Korean won per liter, automotive diesel at 1,713 won per liter, and household kerosene at 1,321 per liter. This is roughly $1.17 for gasoline and diesel, and 89 cents for household kerosene respectively. For remote islands and special regions requiring additional sea transport costs, prices can be set up to 5% higher within the allowed range. The maximum prices are calculated based on refiners' pre-Middle East conflict supply prices, adjusted by international oil price fluctuation rates and added taxes. The government will review and reset these maximum prices every 2 weeks, taking into account developments in the Middle East and global oil trends. If global oil prices continue to rise, adjustments may increase the caps accordingly. The measure is intended as temporary, and authorities will decide on lifting it based on overall petroleum supply stability and price movements. To support refineries facing potential losses from the caps, the government will provide financial compensation from public funds. Retail prices at individual gas stations are not directly subject to the cap due to regional variations and enforcement challenges. However, the government has strengthened monitoring alongside a ban on hoarding and profiteering. Gas stations that charge unusually high markups compared to their supply prices will be publicly named. If they're caught doing it again, they will face a full investigation by multiple agencies for possible collusion, poor fuel quality, or stockpiling. The government is also preparing additional measures such as potential fuel tax cuts and targeted subsidies for vulnerable groups if the situation worsens. 박준환, Arirang News.
So as we just heard, starting today for the first time in 30 years, South Korea has imposed a fuel price cap to tackle the oil price shock. For more on this, we're joined today by Professor Park Min-jung, Professor of Department of Business Administration at Kumo National Institute of Technology. So Professor Park, thanks for coming on today. How might this fuel price cap bring down prices for consumers, and how might it affect oil companies here in South Korea?
Yeah, the Korean government is considering imposing a fuel price cap for the first time in about 30 years. In the short term, this measure could help reduce the immediate burden on consumers, especially when global oil prices rise rapidly. However, there are also potential side effects. Price caps can put pressure on the profit margins of all refiners and distributors, which may affect market incentives and investment in the sector. Additionally, maintaining a social policy may require government intervention through tax adjustments or subsidies, which could really increase fiscal pressure. Therefore, while the measure may be effective as a temporary stabilization tool, it should ideally be combined with long-term strategies such as improving energy efficiency and accelerating the transition to alternative energy sources.
Right, and because of this oil price shock, International Energy Agency member states, including South Korea, agreed to release a record amount of oil from the reserves, but oil prices still didn't go down. Why is this?
Even though member states of the International Energy Agency, including South Korea, agreed to release a record amount of oil from their strategic reserves, oil prices did not fall significantly. This is because oil prices are influenced not only by current supply, but also market expectations and geopolitical risks. First, the releasing strategy reserves is mainly a short-term stabilization measure. Markets understand that their reserves are temporary and cannot replace long-term production capacity from major oil producers. Second, the ongoing geopolitical uncertainty surrounding the Russia and Ukraine conflict has created a risk premium global energy markets. Investors and traders expect the possible disruptions in supply due to sanctions, transportation issues, or prolonged conflict, and these expectations tend to keep prices elevated.
I see. And oil prices actually climbed above $100 per barrel today. And some analysts even say these oil prices will not fall to pre-war levels even after the conflict ends. Do you think oil prices will remain this high?
Many analysts now believe oil prices may not return to pre-war levels even if the conflict ends, and there are several structural reasons for that. The first, the global energy markets has already undergone significant supply realignment. Sanctions on Russian energy exports and shifts in trade flows between Europe and Middle East and Asia have changed the structure of the market. Furthermore, secondly, the investment in new oil production has been relatively limited in recent years. Energy companies have become more cautious about long-term fossil fuel investments due to both market uncertainty and energy transition policies. And finally, the transition towards carbon towards neutrality, in most carbon neutrality, is reshaping the industry. While renewable energy is expanding, the adjustment period can actually lead to tight supply conditions in traditional energy markets.
I see. And Professor Bob, before I let you go, on tariffs, the Trump administration has launched a new trade investigation into South Korea and also 15 other economies. And this is aimed at replacing reciprocal tariffs. How might this trade probe affect the Korean economy?
The trade investigation launched under the administration of Trump, targeting South Korea and several other economies, could introduce additional uncertainty into global trade relations. South Korea's economy is highly export-oriented, so any potential tariff changes or trade restrictions could affect key industries such as automobiles, steels, and semiconductors, particularly in the U.S. market. At the same time, Korean companies have already developed relatively diversified global supply chains and production networks. This means they may be able to adapt by adjusting production locations or supply routes. So ultimately, the issue reflects a broader trend of rising protectionism and strategic competition in global trade, and South Korea will need to respond with flexible trade strategies and stronger international cooperation.
I see. All right, Professor Park, thank you so much for coming on today. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Lawmakers at South Korea's National Assembly have approved a bill paving the way for Seoul's pledge of $350 billion of investment in U.S. industries, which it made last year to avoid the Trump administration's tariffs. Our political correspondent Moon Il-yeon tells us more.
South Korea's National Assembly on Thursday passed a special bill aimed at managing the country's large-scale strategic investment in the United States. The legislation establishes the legal framework for Seoul to carry out its $350 billion investment commitment under a bilateral trade agreement with Washington. Momentum behind the bill intensified after U.S. President Donald Trump warned in January that tariffs on South Korean goods could rise back to 25% if Seoul continued delaying the legislation needed to implement the deal. Often referred to as the U.S. investment bill, the law establishes a new body tasked with overseeing the projects and coordinating the investment process. It will be responsible for managing and supervising investment activities tied to the bilateral agreement. A dedicated fund will also be set up to finance the initiative. According to the bill, the fund will be raised through government contributions, entrusted assets from participating institutions, and the issuance of special investment bonds. Officials say the structure is intended to ensure stable financing and systematic oversight as South Korea pursues large-scale strategic investment projects in the United States. Key sectors expected to benefit include shipbuilding, semiconductors, and other industries seen as central to strengthening economic cooperation between the two countries. The legislation had already cleared a special parliamentary committee reviewing the bill, as well as the National Assembly's Legislation and Judiciary Committee earlier this week, with bipartisan support. President Lee Jae-myung remarked on this show of bipartisan cooperation during a meeting with his top aides on Thursday.
여러 가지 어려움들이 있을 텐데도 이런 대외적 관계에서 문제가 되지 않도록 이렇게 협조해 주신 점에 대해서 다시 한번 감사드립니다.
Its final approval in Thursday's plenary session now provides the domestic legal basis for the government to move forward with implementing the investment plan. Separately, lawmakers also reported a request for a parliamentary probe into allegations of politically motivated prosecutions during the administration of former President Yoon Suk-yeol. Lawmakers also voted on dozens of additional livelihood and reform-related bills during the plenary session. Moon Hae-ryun, Arirang News.
In just hours after South Korea's National Assembly passed a special investment bill, Prime Minister Kim Min-seok met U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance in Washington to discuss overall bilateral relations. The Prime Minister's office in Seoul said Vance welcomed the Parliament's passage of the bill to implement Seoul's pledge to invest $350 billion in the United States. During Thursday's meeting, Kim called on Vance to work together to quickly implement other key security agreements outlined in a joint fact sheet released in November, including building nuclear power submarines and securing civil uranium enrichment. The two sides also reaffirmed that both countries are open to dialogue with North Korea and agreed to maintain close communication on this issue. At the Blue House, President Lee Jae-myung has called for a supplementary budget to be drawn up quickly to help ease the burden on people's livelihoods. Our correspondent Yoon Jung-min explains more.
민생 경제 충격 완화를 위한 골든 타임을 절대로 허비해서는 안 되겠습니다.
That was President Lee Jae-myung on Thursday as he asked his aides to keep all hands on deck to cushion the economic fallout from the Middle East conflict, now well into its second week. He once again urged his officials to speed up organizing an extra budget, which usually takes about a month or two.
위기일수록 민생 안정과 경제 회복이 뒷걸음질 치지 않게 재정의 신속한 투입도 꼭 필요합니다. 결국 추경 편성을 하지 않을 수가 없는데 추경 편성도 최대한 신속하게 해주시기 바랍니다.
As more people in the country start to feel the pinch at the pump, he stressed the need to employ all possible measures.
상반기 공공요금 동결, 또 농축수산물 할인 지원 확대 등을 포함해서 유류세나 화물차, 대중교통, 농업인에 대한 유가보조금 지원에 속도를 내야 되겠습니다.
As the president was critical of those who view his policy as populist, he revisited that support should be executed in a way that does not aggravate polarization.
그러려면 직접 지원 방향으로 바꾸고 또 차등 지원을 통해서 어려운 쪽에 더 많은 지원이 될 수 있도록 하는 게 필요하지 않을까 싶습니다. 또 직접 지원을 하더라도 현금 지원하기보다는 지역화폐 형태로 지급해서.
President Lee also called for fundamental reforms, such as diversifying energy supplies, reforming the oil market, and transitioning to renewable energy. He thanked certain ramyeon and cooking oil producers for their decision to lower product prices during a difficult time. Ahead of BTS comeback concert at Gwanghwamun next Saturday, Lee ordered that public safety measures be thoroughly put in place, saying that hundreds of thousands of people will be gathering. The president also urged for the need to strongly punish any rip-offs. Yoon Jung-min, Arirang News.
Good morning, I'm Chu Ji-hyun, and this is The World Now. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on Thursday said that Israel and the United States are successfully, quote, crushing the Iranian regime and its proxies. In his first press conference since the war began, Netanyahu said that the joint campaign has changed the balance of power in the Middle East by striking what he called Iran's, quote, industries of death. He also said Iran's new supreme leader, Mojtaba Khamenei, was a, quote, puppet of the Revolutionary Guards who is too afraid to show his face in public. Netanyahu emphasized that the military's primary objective remains preventing Tehran from developing nuclear weapons and ballistic missiles, but said it also is creating optimum conditions for Iranians to topple the government. In the U.S., armed security personnel in Michigan shot and killed a suspect after he rammed a truck into a Detroit-area synagogue on Thursday. The suspect crushed the truck through the doors of Temple Israel while 140 children were inside the building's daycare center. Law enforcement discovered a large cache of explosives inside the suspect's vehicle. One security officer sustained injuries, but all children and other staff escaped unharmed. The FBI are treating the incident as a targeted act of violence against the Jewish community. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum's attempted electoral reforms have failed to get through Congress. The Mexican leader on Thursday said she will continue her push to reduce political privileges and will release details of a Plan B on Monday. This follows the rejection by the Chamber of Deputies on Wednesday of a constitutional amendment that would have eliminated proportional representation and cut election spending by 25%. Opponents argued Sheinbaum's reforms would have weakened smaller parties and granted the governing Morena party excessive power. Humanity's first trip around the moon in more than 50 years looks to be back on after NASA cleared its moon rocket for an April 1st launch attempt. Engineers at the Kennedy Space Center fixed a helium flow issue that had previously grounded the 322-foot rocket and delayed the mission. NASA officials on Thursday confirmed the rocket will roll back to the launch pad next week to meet a narrow 6-day launch window. The agency declared both the hardware and the 4-member crew are ready for the historic mission to the moon.
Western regions are having mostly clear skies, but it has been a different story in the east. Heavy snow alerts in the mountainous regions in Gangwon-do province have been lifted, but some precipitation will continue along the east coast through the afternoon, while Ulleungdo and Dokdo may receive 2 to 7 centimeters of more snowfall. And this weekend looks like being rather cloudy, with temperatures hovering right above seasonal norms in most parts of Korea. But today looks sunny with much improved air quality in most regions, and daytime highs will be slightly lower than yesterday. Seoul will be getting up to 12 degrees Celsius. Daegu, Chuncheon, Busan will only get up to 11 degrees. Meanwhile, Gangwon-do, Gyeongsang-do, and Jeju Island will notice winds picking up as the day goes on. And next week looks promising with mild afternoons, but beware of large day-night temperature swings and do dress accordingly to avoid catching a cold.
That's all we have for this morning. Arirang News will be back at noon Korea time. Thanks for watching.
서양 요리는 오직 하나의 주인공을 위한 무대입니다. 완벽하게 계산된 정물화 같죠. 그런데 한식은 밥과 찬이 어우러져 완성되는 한상이 더 중요해요. 마치 자연을 한 폭에 담은 풍경을 같달까요?
요리사인 저도 한국 음식에 대해서 제대로 모르는 거예요.
향이 미쳤다.
저도 맛보고 싶어요. 알면 알수록 과학적이고 이렇게 하면 할수록 제가 더 빠져드는 거예요.
온다. 엄청 왔다.
같이 여행을 한번 떠나보시죠.
From breaking news in South Korea to stories from around the world, we're here to bring you the news that matters.
Truth, clarity, and impartiality. And that's what we uphold in a fast-changing world.
We go beyond the headlines, offering depth, context, and perspective.
This isn't just news, it's our commitment. News you trust. Arirang News.
A country where traditional and modern cultures coexist.
Where you can explore spectacular landscapes and nature.
Savor the delights of traveling at every turn.
Where? Korea, of course.
There are some must-visit places in Korea. Ones that appear in every tour guidebook: Hangang River, Gyeongbokgung Palace from the Joseon Dynasty, and...
Yes, these are essentials, but I want to go somewhere a little different. I don't have to follow the guidebook. For example, filming locations for K-pop music videos or K-dramas and movies.
Traveling is all about taking it slow. A long walk at your own pace, or even zoning out somewhere quiet. Doesn't it sound relaxing?
You travel for the experience, trying something new in a foreign place, de-stressing and making lifetime memories, taking tons of pictures along the way.
70% of the Korean territory is mountainous. Naturally, hiking is a very popular pastime in Korea. Not your kind of activity? Trust me, the view will make the effort worth it. Just catch your breath by the cold stream in the valley.
Korea is surrounded by the sea on three sides. From the beach, you can enjoy a wide open view as well as various water activities. But the riverside is great too. There's plenty to see and do.
If you're in Korea, you can't miss the night view full of dazzling lights.
Yes, even the same place can have a totally different vibe at night.
Want to make unforgettable memories?
How about traveling to all corners of Korea? Join us next time to explore more about Korean culture.
We're here to bring a new type of news show. New insights, new styles, and new topics every day.
We are News Generation.
Bringing news just for you. It's Friday, March 13th here in Seoul. I'm Lee Soo-jin, and this is News Generation. Joining us today is Brooke.
Hello, happy to be here.
Javi, and also Moonji's with us.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday, and both are here to speak on behalf of people in their 20s and 30s. So we're finally at the end of the work week, and before we head into the weekend, let's talk about something exciting coming up next week. So global K-pop sensation BTS is set to make a long-awaited comeback. It will be their first full group performance in nearly 4 years. And here at Arirang TV, we're also preparing extensive coverage of the event, and adding even more meaning for us is the fact that the group's new album is titled Arirang. So Brooke, why are fans around the world so excited about this comeback?
Well, I'm not sure if you can tell by my shirt, the color, but I am an ARMY, so I could not be more excited to discuss our topic today because, like you said, BTS is at last returning as a full group for the first time in 3 years and 9 months. So needless to say, the anticipation is reaching fever pitch. So the global K-pop act is scheduled to hold a free concert called BTS The Comeback Live Arirang on March 21st at 8 p.m. Now, with all 15,000 of the initial tickets selling out immediately upon release on February 23rd and nearby hotels fully booked, some fans known as the ARMY are coordinating online to pitch tents in the square a day before the show to secure prime viewing spots. So police are expecting up to 260,000 people to gather in the Gwanghwamun area for the show. And it's no wonder, because this will be the first time that the group is on stage together again after their hiatus. And it will also come right after the release of their 5th full-length album, Arirang, at 1 p.m. on the 20th, which is the day before the concert. So it's a very, very exciting weekend up ahead. And I think it's kind of a way for ARMY to show, hey, we are still here, we've been waiting for you, and we are so excited to see what you guys have been working on together.
So like you said, it's quite obvious how intense the anticipation for this comeback will be. So how competitive was the ticketing for the BTS comeback show, Moonjun?
By the way, I've never seen Brooke this excited in her new generation. Congrats.
Thank you.
Yeah, and ticketing for the Gwanghwamun concert opened last February 23rd, as Brooke just mentioned, and the competition was absolutely fierce, with over 100,000 fans flooding the site the moment reservation opened. Especially this particular event was held entirely free of charge for fans, which made the rush for tickets even more fierce. If you missed out, don't be too disappointed. This concert will be broadcasted in the future, so tune in and catch all the performances that BTS will be doing in that concert.
Right, I'm glad how accessible this one is. So a free concert from BTS. No wonder the competition was so intense. It really shows how powerful the BTS fan base is, both in Korea and around the world. So we're going to talk more about this, but first, let's take a look at the screen. Being able to watch your favorite artists perform live has never been easy, but it has also never been harder. As the popularity of concerts and sporting events continues to grow, the competition for tickets has become fiercer than ever. From online waiting rooms to lightning-fast sellouts, fans are even sharing strategies on how to secure a seat. Today on News Generation, we take a closer look at the ticketing process that has become essential for concerts and sporting events, the scams and risks fans should watch out for, and the broader issues surrounding major pop concerts. So just as we saw in the video, getting tickets these days can feel like a sport in itself. So let's start by breaking down what the ticketing process actually looks like. So what are the typical ticketing routine fans follow before the ticket sales open, Brooke?
Well, it is actually quite a complicated thing. In fact, so much so that when I was an English teacher back in the day, one of my students here in Korea did her how-to presentation in English on ticketing in Korea. And so she showed all of the apps that people use to practice their clicking. It's very intense, and I learned a lot that day about what goes into securing tickets for K-pop concerts. So people who plan to buy tickets usually have a routine, right? They log into the ticketing site at least 30 minutes before reservations open. Since most platforms require an account, it's important to sign up and log in beforehand, especially if you're a foreigner. There can definitely be some hiccups if you are an international person trying to use these platforms, so get there ahead of time. Then they keep the ticketing page open and they watch the clock down to the second. People will have countdowns going on, and they click exactly when reservations open. You'll then be put into a queue. Now, if their internet connection is slow, some people will even try from a PC instead of a phone to increase their chances. I have seen many people go to PC bangs, so it's quite funny because you'll go in and you'll see some people playing video games, but whenever there's a big concert coming up, you'll see the ticketing screen everywhere and people just sitting and waiting for that countdown. But the queue can be thousands of people long, so it's really all about speed, the speed of your fingers and the speed of your internet connection.
So like you said, it really sounds like a race against both time and internet speed. And as demand grows, the competition for tickets is only getting tougher. So what strategies are fans starting to improve or sharing to improve their chances of success?
Oh yeah, you need to be very, very strategic. Popularity of K-pop and even Korean sports has been surging very widely. So the ticketing war has become fiercer than ever. So there is some pro tips for ticketing strategies that are being widely shared among fans, such as syncing your clock to the exact opening time and pre-registering your login and payment methods, and accessing the site with multiple devices simultaneously, with your mobile phone, with your PC, and even with your laptops, right? And another golden tip is what we call ticketing, which means aiming for canceled tickets, and this is very efficient actually. I've had success with this method. By checking the exact time these canceled tickets are released in advance, you can gear up and give ticketing another shot. Yeah.
And both of you guys are sharing really good tips I kind of want to write down. So I'm kind of curious how these work out in real life. So Brooke, have you had success with buying like these popular tickets?
Yes, like Moonju mentioned, the ticketing method is a really good one. I've had success with that too. I am no stranger to K-pop ticketing, being here for 10 years. My first concert here was actually the Busan One Asia Festival in 2016. And I didn't know much about K-pop at the time, but that was when I first discovered BTS. And I just remember thinking that their performance was so incredible. They had such hard-hitting energy. And so I became an ARMY, and I have seen them a few times since then. They're always incredible. I've also seen 17 and The Boys. I went to all 3 of their concerts this past summer, which is the first time that's ever happened for me. The first 2 days I got the tickets myself through ticketing. The third day, though, I found someone posting online saying that they could no longer go to the last show, and they wanted to give their ticket to a real fan. They were selling it at the original price, so we met at the venue and we talked about our bias together, and then she gave me her ticket. So I think that part of the Korean concert ticketing culture is really wholesome and nice, but of course there is a darker side. It can be very nerve-wracking trying to click faster than everyone else, especially when you're not actually going against real humans some of the times. You can be fighting bots. So there are these illegal macro programs. They're automated bots that are widely used by scalpers to instantly book, hold, and resell tickets for very popular K-pop concerts and events. And they often sell them for up to 25 times the original price. The government is trying to crack down on these things, but it's a difficult thing to combat. And it's really sad because I think real fans should have the chance to get those tickets.
Right, it's because of these automated bots that a lot of times not everyone walks away with a ticket. So what about you, Moonju? Have you had any ticketing success?
Yeah, I'm so jealous of Brooke's magic touch.
I've failed many times, trust me.
I failed every time, okay? So I have a disastrous success rate in this ticketing war. Most of the times when I log in to the page, I receive a message that you are on the 2,000 something wait list. And
the spinning wheel of death.
Yeah.
Continues.
Continuously spinning, right? And if I'm able to select seats, very luckily, and here's a message that pops up: the seat has been taken by someone.
Oh no,
that's the worst.
I'm so sad. Then why are they even making me try to pay, right? Anyways, most recently, I missed out on tickets for last year's Korean series, the championship series of the Korea Baseball League. But sometimes it pays off to keep your inner peace and continuously refreshing the webpage. I actually managed to get tickets for the 2024 MLB World Tour Seoul Series this way, so it's so you need some inner peace and patience.
Patience is
Well, I mean, congrats for that.
Thank you.
And that disappointment, I think, something that many people can relate to. And unfortunately, the competition is not the only challenge that fans face. So what are some scams that fans should be aware of when buying these tickets, Brooke?
Yes, you definitely have to be careful out there because recently there have been more and more scams popping up targeting K-pop concert fans in particular. In one case, a group ran a social media account claiming that they could help people reserve idol concert tickets and asked fans to send money, but then they kept asking for more payments with excuses like, oh, you need to send it again under a different ID, or your transaction was flagged as abnormal, so you need to pay again to verify it. And in some cases, they scammed up to 30 million won, which is something like $25,000 from a single victim. And there were more than 100 victims in total. I think I'm a good person to talk about this because I have actually been a victim of a concert ticket scam here in Korea. It was a BTS concert, so I didn't get to go to the concert, which was really sad because it wasn't real. And I always think of myself as pretty savvy, but with the advent of AI and things like that, the screenshots can be extremely convincing these days. There was a screenshot with my name on a Post-it note and the exact seat. It was very elaborate, these scams. And so my case actually went all the way to court because there were dozens of other victims totaling millions of won. And I never got my money back, unfortunately, but it was good to know that the perpetrator was caught and brought to justice. Definitely just a message, a warning. Be very careful, especially if you're an international fan. Be sure that you are contacting and buying from verified sellers.
I think this happens because so many fans are so eager to attend and have that experience. Another issue that keeps coming up is illegal ticket reselling. So has scalping been a problem recently, Moonju?
It is a major issue these days. Following the ticketing for this BTS Gwanghwamun concert, illicit ticket sales have run rampant and sparking widespread controversy, with scalpers reportedly demanding up to 2 million won for tickets, which was originally free. So there are even brokers deceiving K-pop fans, claiming they can secure tickets in these vicious ticketing wars only to snatch their money. So they receive their payments and they never try for securing the ticket, and they just run away with the money. So as the scalping problem reaches a boiling point, the government has announced a crackdown starting this year, introducing a new measure to confiscate illicit profits and hit illegal sellers with fines of up to 50 times of the original ticket value.
Wow, that's great to hear.
Right, so hopefully these stricter penalties will help protect fans moving forward. And to get a deeper perspective on this, we're going to be joined by someone who's well-versed in K-pop culture and has firsthand experience securing tickets to popular K-pop concerts. That conversation will take place right after the break, so don't go anywhere.
NewsGen wants to hear from you. Go to YouTube and search out channel Arirang News. Click Posts and cast your vote in the poll. Make a new type of news with us.
Joining us today is David, a content creator and BTS fan who recently tried to secure tickets for the group's upcoming concert. So hello, David. Thank you so much for connecting with us today.
Hello, glad to be here.
So I like your sweatshirt today.
Yes, it's in purple tone.
So David, how did your attempt to get tickets for the upcoming concert go?
Yeah, so luckily I did manage to secure a ticket, but I saw your piece beforehand, and you guys mentioned words like sports and battle. Indeed, it was more like a war to me, actually. It was a total roller coaster. I had to ensure like the fastest and most comfortable environment. I straight away head to like a PC room, and there I met like hundreds of ARMY just gathered along together to get the ticketing with myself. So I went to the PC room like 30 minutes before the actual ticketing happened. I was just pre-logged in. I was studying all these different kind of strategies to get the tickets myself on the internet. And when I actually entered the queue, I was so surprised because there were about like 150,000 people in queue in total. And yeah, I entered at like the 135,000 mark. So in one part of me definitely thought I was doomed, but I didn't, give up on hope until the end. So I just patiently waited, and at the end of like maybe waiting maybe like 40 minutes, I grabbed a third floor seat. I know it isn't the best and the stage might be a little far, but I'm still very happy in the fact that I'll be there present in the historical event. And yeah, I'm just grateful. And I do have to highlight one thing though. Despite my luck with the concert itself, everyone knows that BTS is doing their grand comeback at the Gwanghwamun stage, and there was another ticketing for that one as well too. Actually, there were two sessions with the additional one just yesterday. But just to let you guys know that I did a epic fail on both of those ones, so I'm kind of sad. And on top of that, ironically, even though I'm going to the concert, there's a mini sales ticketing battle with the army bombs you have to bring. Apparently, there were 4 releases. I was not able to get my hands on any of them. So yeah, fingers crossed that there will be more additional drops.
Well, as a fellow Army, I'm glad you at least had some success. It sounds like an incredible journey that you went through. So I'm curious, what is your best strategy for getting concert tickets in general?
Yeah, I think there are a lot of strategy. I think you guys have already mentioned the most fundamental one. So let me just go into the details a little bit. So first of all, everyone knows that your connection has to be fast. But most importantly, through my experience, the best advice I would give is don't panic. So a lot of people become very like frantic when the actual time comes and the clock goes down. So people like frantically click on the this click sign, and for me that didn't work out because the interface kind of swifted or shifted a little bit. And so my advice would be don't smash the mouse, be calm. One precise click is better than the frantic ones that might glitch the system. And I think secondly, once you're in the queue, the best advice is never touch anything. Like a lot of people I've noticed go to multi-tabs and they go to YouTube and watch and try to spend their time in the between. But I think those are variables that might mess up your chances of actually, getting in the actual ticketing queue. So yes, never refresh the page, never touch anything, just leave it there. Just maybe use your phone to, for entertainment for the remaining 30 minutes or so. So that would be one big part of advice. Third, if you get in the system, some people might get startled by a pop-up CAPTCHA. So they have to verify you're human. So be ready for the CAPTCHA sign to pop up and have your keyboard ready on English mode because it's going to be in the alphabet. So a lot of people, they have it set on Korean and they miss those very precious 3 seconds head start. So that is a very pro tip. Fourth, I think you have to be very realistic with your queue number. So in my case, it was 135,000 or something. So at that point, I was very strategic. I was very cold about it. And I said, I'm not going to get VIP tickets. I'm not going to get standing tickets. I went straight for third floor. So yeah, I think that kind of strategy, knowing where you're in the queue, it just increases the chances of you actually getting the tickets at the end. So yeah, lastly, I think if you go to the section and pick a seat, there is a pop-up that says, you might have this seat might have already been chosen. So once that pops up, do not get startled. Just go on and move to the next seat, the neighboring seat. Don't go through other sections. Try your best until the end. And yeah, with these kind of tips, I think you'll be able to successfully get tickets.
I see. Thanks for the tips. I say one with the disastrous success rate with the ticketing wars. It was very helpful. I think I've been doing everything that you just told us not to do. I'll keep that in mind. Anyways, our last question for you today is, what do you think is the biggest problem of buying concert tickets these days?
Yeah, to be fair, I think with this amount of demand and us, being in the free market, everyone trying to get these tickets, I think the current system is probably the most efficient way to do this. And honestly, the technical systems didn't crash, so it's fairly good. But nevertheless, I do have to point out 2 little things. The first one might be the scalpers, massive amount of them, professional ticket hunters. They purchase tickets for resale, and I don't know how they get around things, but they use apparently macro or bots to, penetrate the system. And then at the end, they sell them at humongous prices that are well exceeding over the regular prices. So for the real fans to get them, the tickets, I think, the ticketing system or the label might have to cooperate in getting much stricter regulations or smarter systems to prevent these scalpers from getting in with the bots. And second one is when I went to the PC Bang, I did notice a lot of elderly fans and people that are a little less familiar with the digital technology. And it was kind of heartbreaking to see these older fans at the PC Bang looking lost and overwhelmed by the process. So I'm sure they read all the guides beforehand, but still when it gets the actual thing, even people like me sweat, and they were struggling and stumbling. So I believe carefully that we might have to explore some inclusive and alternative systems, perhaps like maybe a little small quota for a fair lottery or different methods to ensure the process isn't just, a technical speed contest that only younger people are able to compete in.
I think that was a really good reminder of how usually the fandom includes people from all different ages as well. So yeah, and also thank you so much for those tips. As someone who's just an anxious person in general, I am also guilty of the frantic clicking. So yeah, thank you for sharing your story today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we've just spoken with a K-pop content creator who successfully secured tickets, something many fans know is no easy feat. So this is what it really takes to win what's called a ticketing war here in Korea, and the challenges fans are facing, from scalping and inflated resale prices to scams targeting desperate buyers. But competition for tickets is not the only issue surrounding K-pop concerts today. So what other issues around K-pop concerts should we be discussing or being raised more awareness of?
Well, one issue is concert infrastructure. So of course, the Hallyu wave has made K-pop a lot more popular. It's brought a lot of overseas people to Korea to see these concerts. So there's a huge demand. Even within their own countries, there are survey results showing that people would travel 240 miles to see a BTS concert. But when they come here to Korea, there often aren't enough of these big concert venues, and that means events have to limit their scale. There's more competition, and thus more scalping and scams. So I don't know what more could be done, since Korea can't make itself larger, but infrastructure is definitely one of the issues that can be talked about. And then just, trying to reduce ticket competition and those scams that we talked about would be the biggest issues.
Right, and because these concerts are so large scale, obviously safety is also a huge issue. So what are some safety concerns that fans should keep in mind?
Yeah, definitely, standing shoes, these days if you're watching the standing area, it's very hard for you to watch fully enjoy the concert, especially if you're relatively short. So that's why people are buying these standing shoes. But you have to really be careful with this, because there are some injury issues such as, breaking teeth or losing toenail. So, always, more than anything, your safety is your priority, right? So you have to be safe with everything that you're doing the concert.
Well said. So going back to the concert that's happening next week, so how do you hope this BTS comeback wraps up, Brooke?
Well, I know we're all super excited for this comeback, including myself, but like we said, safety is the top priority. So I hope that everyone can enjoy this concert without any incidents, and I hope BTS enjoys receiving all the love from their fans. And don't worry, if you did not get a ticket like me, you can watch it. Netflix is going to be transmitting this, and it will be the first time that it's transmitted live from Korea. The organizers are saying that more than 50 million viewers are expected to watch this from 190 countries and 300 million users. It's going to be a huge event, a global live broadcast on a scale similar to the World Cup or the Olympics. So I just hope it's going to be a massive success for them. I know it will be.
So what about you, Moonju?
I think one of the very special moments that BTS will be doing here is, I think, them planning on performing with 50 dancers and 13 members of Arirang 국악 ensemble after the glorious opening stage. So I hope it would be a great chance for our folk song Arirang become even more widely recognized to global fans.
So as we've heard today, the excitement around K-pop concerts and BTS is stronger than ever, but so are the challenges that come with it. So from fierce competition for tickets to issues like scams and also safety concerns, there's clearly a lot for fans and organizers to navigate. Still, moments like the upcoming concert from BTS remind us just how powerful music can be in bringing people together. And hopefully next week's event will be a celebration that fans everywhere can enjoy safely, whether they're in person or watching from home. And that brings us to the end of today's episode of News Generation. But Nusha will be back on Monday at 10:30 a.m. Korea time with more stories and discussions. A big thanks to Brooke.
A big borahe to everyone.
And also Munju.
Thanks for having me today.
And to our viewers, thank you so much for watching. I hope you'll keep the excitement going as we count down to the big comeback. We are News Generation.
How to survive in Korea. One room. So, you're surviving in Korea? If you've signed a contract for a one room, obviously you're a pro. But the real deal begins now. Step 1. Housewarming. No need to buy toilet paper, diffusers or hand soap. You'll get them soon enough as housewarming gifts. And some are bound to pile up. There's nothing better to serve your guests than milpaeyu nabe. If you have Korean friends coming over, don't forget the extra garlic. Step 2. Garbage disposal. With great power comes great responsibility. You've had a good time, so let's get to work. It might be tempting to sweep everything into a trash can, but you have to separate your garbage. Not bothered? Beware that negligence is punished with a fine or public humiliation. Step 3. Drying rack. You're excited to live alone in Korea, but the fate of these items